So we were just talking about the overview. Welcome back. By the way, are we? I don't know if this is a commercial or if it's just a completely new segment, but we're back. We were talking about the overview of a short film. So let's talk some specifics. So in pre-production, we've got a lot of things that happen. Obviously, we've got the story itself that happens, and we've got the casting and location scouting and all of that goes into development.
Right. I think we should start with like the story, right?
Okay.
You come up with all of these ideas. How did you come up with the idea of Beta?
That's an interesting question because where ideas come from, it's like I don't really know.
What is your muse?
I remember. Kevin? Okay, so these are the things that I remember about the beginning of it. Number one, I remember talking about like expectation versus like reality. Like what it is that in a relationship, even what is my wife's expectation of me? What is my expectation of my wife in our relationship? And then what happens if that's not a natural thing? Everyone's got different human qualities and expectations for the people that they're in relationships with. So, I mean, there was that. There was discussions that I know that we had about, and even as simple as I remember watching the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix. I remember having the conversation about like that was a fascinating look into someone who falls in love with a I don't even know what you call that, like a being, but not anything physical. So I think we went down the road of what if we did a sci-fi, and then the idea of a guy building a robot to be, his companion. I don't know. It came up, and I don't remember if that was a me thing, if that was a Kyle thing, if it was one of us. Did you come up with it?
I don't remember.
I don't either.
All very long ago.
It was back. It was just after our premiere, or maybe before our premiere for Hear Me, which was in 2019. And
you know what I think it was? I feel like we were on our way to LA for a festival of showing Hear Me.
And
I feel like we were all in the car, and you were like, guys, I have this great idea. And I remember it was
Borrego?
No. It was in LA.
Okay.
And it was you, Corey, and then Kyle and I in the back seat.
Okay.
And I just remember being like on the drive in the mountains, going to LA.
and you just hearing the pitch.
Yeah.
I don't remember that being the moment though.
I mean, I heard a pitch in that.
It was probably a lot. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, it's hard to say where it came across, but what's cool about ideas, Kyle always says this, all ideas suck. In the beginning, like all ideas are until you build on them.
Right. And
I remember, and obviously I think that we were thinking about it even being just like a straight up comedy, almost silly. And then it just evolved from there, and everyone's take on it and all the discussions that we had. So, for those who don't know, Logic Films, we have a writing team, but we also have everyone kind of gets involved in it. Like it's not just here's the script that we're doing. Go.
Nobody has any questions about this. Nobody has any concerns. It's Kevin and Kyle. No, it's not.
It goes through quite a bit of process. That mosquito, by the way, bit me.
Yeah, there's a couple mosquitoes flying around.
Yeah, that was rough. So it's gonna be a rough time with me. So yeah, we had the developed idea. And it just continued to roll around, and I think we even shelved it for a bit, and then because we went to the LA festival in like August or something, but it wasn't until I remember casting in December, so it had to have been at least like October or November. It was right around the time of the Hear Me premiere in Bakersfield, at least, that we were moving on with Beta. We knew Beta was the next one by that point. And so, yeah, however it came about, I remember sitting down in an office room and just like hammering it out. And again, that whole concept of an idea doesn't really, until you work on it, doesn't become anything until a lot of people have their hand in it and you really, really, really work at development. The way that our writing process works, I took the script to Kyle, who's the writing partner here at Logic, and he destroys it. basically, as he should.
Kyle is very good at like, no, this does not work.
Right.
What is the point of this even being
Right.
here? Like, this has no value.
Right, and not afraid to say it. And he asks a lot of questions, and he's perfect for that. We balance each other out like that because I'm just like, okay, here it is. And then he's like, okay, that's great. Now rip this up. This is why are you doing these things? And so there's a lot of kind of back and forth that happens with the two of us. Like I'll send him it's not notes though, because that happens in every company where there's notes. It's like literally sitting down and together we kind of work it out. Will we get to a point where we've got a good story? Now let's literally go line by line and go, does that character need to say that? Is silence better here than actual words? Because it can, sound pretty derivative if the character is saying what they feel.
Justin started in on that process, right? Like once it became like an actual script, I know Justin helped.
Yeah, we had. That's right. We had a couple meetings on Zoom. This was before Zoom became the
end all be all.
End all be all for communication. Yes, he did. And so, yeah, Justin, Kyle, and I, we sat around and really like worked it out. And then I remember very specifically going through. And then we move along with, do we want to get into things like the reading and things like that before? Yeah, that was part of it.
It was part of it. I mean, my question really was just how you came up with your story. So I think you answered that.
Yeah. How much time are we in right now? 10 minutes? 7 minutes. Okay.
You're close. Look at you estimating.
It's just about story.
Okay, so I mean, you brought up how at the end of the script, after it's locked, right? We need to understand if it actually works. And in order to do that, we need people to actually read it, how they would act during it. So who did we have?
Yeah, we got together a reading. It's a table read. Typically you do this with the actors, but since we hadn't cast, we wanted to see, if it's even worth going down that road. So we brought in two very well prominent actors here in Bakersfield, came to help us out with some reading. And basically we just kind of, they played the roles and we put the script in front of them. They cold read it, which there's some value in cold reading. For those who don't know, cold reading is basically they've never seen this story before. They have no idea what it's about, and they just read based on reactions. And I think that at the time we wanted to see, how is an actor for the first time going to do this. I don't know. I don't know that we'll do that again cold. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it was different because we were like, we weren't expecting it to be read that way, like with certain inflection and certain vowels or whatever. So I think it was still good that we did it because you're like, I didn't even think about that. Talking about that numbness again, like, you're so familiar with the script, you have it in your head however you want it to be done. You kind of forget that there's other ways of doing things. I think it did help us.
And there's honesty in that first.
Right. It's how they come to it, right?
Right.
It's how they perceive the script. It's how obviously people who would watch the screening, right, would feel about it, I guess you could say.
Right.
So I think that we should do it again.
Cold read. Well, and then we did have them flip and they did, after they got familiarized with the script, they did it again. I think it was just when I was watching some BTS and Angela was talking about how, when she was reading it again, it was a lot better. And so, what we really are after is how can this sound? So the purpose of a cold read is to, again, remove ourselves and give the power over to actors, because that's ultimately what's going to be happening.
Right. Have no input and just see how your work actually comes across in somebody's eyes.
Right. Which is super surreal. It's always very, very awkward the first couple times hearing it. In any case, we did that. I think that was in January or December. It was.
I have no idea.
It's been so long ago. I think it was right away in January.
It was a cold month.
It was.
I did have a jacket that I brought with us.
Yeah, I remember these things from way back when. Yeah, and I was wearing a jacket too. This is all stuff that's super important that we need to make sure that everyone knows about. Clearly, this
what
is
color was your jacket?
It was black.
Mine was blue.
I was wearing a brown hat. I only know this because of Michael's
the BTS
stuff. Yeah. So we do a reading, and then we decide to move on into casting. So this is one where I think both of us could have a pretty equal, but an equal understanding of it, but a very different
viewpoints of it.
Yeah. So I'll start. We'll start with you and just say, like, walk us through what we did, and kind of the stages of creating a casting call and all of that. And then what was your kind of experience overall? And then we'll get into, when we actually got William and Aubrey.
So, I mean, we started out, we gave our log line, our synopsis, everything like that. We put it out online to have everybody in the world send us their submissions.
Yeah, we're lucky if most everyone I think that's going to listen to this knows we're in Bakersfield, which is in the LA area. So if you're outside of that, when you have a market that's right next door, it helps.
Yeah, it definitely does. But we had a lot of those submissions to watch, just their reels of we didn't give them the side until we had chosen, right?
Yeah,
they just submitted their reels.
So yeah, usually you put out what's called the script breakdown,
right?
Which is basically a synopsis of your work, and you say this is the character that you're going for, this is about the playable age, things like that, just the basics, and then the overall synopsis of the work, and then from there you get submissions, which I think we ended up, after counting, like 6,000 submissions. It was so many. And I mean, we got anywhere from people that we actually recognized from like
big time like movies. You're like, I know her.
You're right. That was super weird.
Yeah.
And then, cousin Sally, who wants to take their selfie as their whatever their
you're just
profile
like, okay,
picture. Right.
Cool.
And nothing wrong with that, except it was, when you're going through 6,000 submissions, that's a lot. So I think what we ended up doing was taking those 6,000 and choosing, I think the next number was about 400. I remember it was a lot, because we went through and just kind of like checked some boxes, and we got through about 400, and then we asked those 400
to send in a side.
So
that would be like the self-tape of themselves doing our script.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember watching those and just like realizing how different actors took certain lines,
right,
like to either to the extreme or not enough, and you were just sitting there like, what do I want from this script? Like, who do I want in this character?
You think
role?
in the beginning, right, and then you see all these options, and you're like, well, wait, that could be that way.
Because I remember how Beta started out. It was like a childlike innocence, which still she has.
Right.
But we took that and ran with like, oh, well, she needs to be young then. And then we realized like, that's kind of creepy.
Yeah, we didn't want, right. We needed somebody that was more of an equal and not child, because that goes in weird directions. Yeah, I mean, for people that don't understand or don't know the script, it's a robot that kind of grows up in 20 minutes. And so it grows up mentally and emotionally. But it didn't play off as well as we thought we were wanting. Thank God we got Aubrey.
Yes.
Because she created so much depth there. But what we took was we took the 400 that sent in a self-tape, and we ended up narrowing it down to about 25 each.
That sounds right.
So, yeah. And we brought them some of them were from Bakersfield and some of them were from LA. And so we did 2 different sets of auditions. One week we hit the Bakersfield submissions, and then the next one we went down to LA and did a couple days down in LA with actors from there. And I think, now this is where I'll ask you, do you remember William and Aubrey's like tapes along the way?
As the person who was reading the script to these actors to play off of, I found myself not really like paying attention to like who exactly was happening. I was just like, how did they actually feed off of me? Cool. But I do know I remember William. I remember seeing Aubrey. I don't remember what Aubrey did for us in that room until I watched it later.
Right.
But I do remember William because for me, as I was reading it to them, I needed to make sure that this man was not a
Right.
predator.
As a woman, yeah.
Right. And I feel like there were a couple, that I was like, okay, I feel safe around this guy. Like, but that stuck with me. Like, William stuck with me because of that.
Right. See, and talking about Byron's character first, that was something I remember was from the beginning, something we knew we needed to make sure we nailed, we landed right. Because as an act of creating a human being to be your like companion, take the sex stuff out of it. Just that act alone can be creepy if the right person isn't doing it. Right. They have to be endearing, and they have to have that. You have to at least be able to relate to why they're doing it, not necessarily the act of it. And so we needed that, and some landed and some definitely didn't.
Right. You could definitely tell in that room, this isn't going to work. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of hard for me, to like be like, okay, yeah, like that was really good. Thank you. I don't want to like hurt them. Eventually we did send out those like emails and calls and like, I'm so sorry, but like, this isn't the role for you.
There were no emails. I called every one of those.
Kevin is very good at that. As a director, he's very endearing and understands people's emotions. And, it is their time. They spend a lot of time on these sides.
And I looked at it like, in the casting process. Sorry, Thomas, this is just going to take a while because casting's awesome. But in the casting process, I looked at it like it's free directing because we were giving them notes on their side before they even came to us. Then they took those notes, and then I remember talking to. There was a little bit more that we did after we selected some for chemistry reads, but and then we give them notes in their actual audition. So it was like whoever the person's going to be, I've already spent time, and we've talked about the character enough to like. Eventually, when we cast, they've already got all that time spent knowing what we're looking for.
Right.
And so I don't remember. Well, I remember Williams. I don't remember his self-tape. Oddly enough, I remember Aubrey's self-tape.
I remember neither.
No self-tape. I did remember his. He became the front runner very quickly for me. Once we took all the tapes back and looked him over, it was pretty clear he was kind of the front runner. Which then we had to look at, okay, who's the best fit for him? And that's not to say that, there weren't other front runners, but it was just definitely, he was a lot clearer. I feel like we struggled more with Beta. I mean, and maybe I only struggled with Beta because I remember
you had a front runner for so long, and I just didn't see that Beta potential that I had seen in others.
Right.
So then it was, okay, but like, why do you like this person for this character? What are their characteristics? Okay, well, what about this person? We have to.
There's just so much that goes into it. But there was a moment where I think we all just realized this is our Beta.
Right.
And this is our Byron. When was that for you?
For me, it was Aubrey. In that moment of after the casting auditions, the first one in LA, we were going back. It was nighttime, and in the car, I just remember we were talking, discussing it, and I was like, no, like Aubrey is who it is for me. She came in with her hair tied up in like a high ponytail. She had like a really strong like jawline, strong presence. Like female energy was like strong, right? And for me, of course, she needed to start out with like this innocence, this childlike fascination with the world. But at the end of the day, she has to stand up for what she believes in, make her own mind up in the situation as she goes and grows. Right. And I felt like Aubrey gets that. So from that moment, I knew this is the Aubrey that we need in the end. And I remember having her come back for the chemistry read. Like, I need to see a softer side.
Right.
Because I remember had that saying strong one.
I had a conversation with her after about that, and she did say that was like she remembers very much. Like we said, okay, and I mean we talked about how can we get that small things like letting her hair down and being not that does anything, but I mean it was very clear she came in ready to be very powerful, and that's not to say that she didn't nail the other parts. She was amazing at the other parts, but that was an area that we wanted to make sure that I think we were just seeing a lot of the softer betas, and it was just like, okay, can you do this?
Right.
I mean, whatever we told her in the chemistry read, she made way better. Like it was not about it. She just added depth to it, as amazing actors do. But it was just fascinating that like it was at different points we knew, okay, there's our beta. I think I remember, so chronologically, after we picked the top 3.
I think it was 3 of each, and then
this is when the coronavirus
Yeah.
like happened, and we were kind of like in this weird gray area. Like, what is it? Is this
like,
cool?
are we allowed to go outside?
Yeah.
Like, do we need to wear masks?
This was,
like,
yeah. Well, and the mask thing wasn't even a
Right.
thing. In the beginning, we didn't know that was airborne, so it was all about,
it was touching
Not
things.
touching,
We
yeah,
had
so we-
cleaned every single surface.
right. And we had them. We did do 6 to 8 feet apart. I remember that was a thing, and we talked with all the actors to make sure they were comfortable with maintaining a distance because it's an intimate story. Like they touch each other. And we wanted to see that, but we couldn't. So I remember that was in the chemistry room, but we brought them in together to play off of each other. And there was one actor who wanted to do another self-tape, basically, which was fine. We took that into consideration. I remember it was just so much. It was so clear.
As soon as they got in the room together.
Yeah.
Like, one would leave and you're just like, something's missing.
Yeah. It was just like, okay, that's, they were an amazing beta for either Byron. William was clearly the best Byron for the role. I mean, Aubrey even said that, like, she was like, that's exactly who I pictured in the chemistry read. She's like, you're exactly who I pictured for this role. It was clear. And, it was hard for me because I have spent so much time looking at all of these betas and all of these Byrons and thinking, oh, they would be perfect in this position and that position. And I remember it being difficult to like make the call because it's a scary thing to have your character go to someone else. Thank God we did because Aubrey made it such a better beta. But yeah, I remember we actually offered William the role like on the drive home.
Yep. I do remember that phone call. We were like on our way out of LA and we
Yeah.
were like, we got to do this. We're so excited.
It was super exciting. Yeah. And it was immediate. Like, it was just like, okay, let's just do it. Why? We know it's William. And then I remember we we sent the chemistry read footage to everybody. And I think it was like a full week before we decided for Aubrey. Like we kept the 3 girls hanging for a while because we wanted to make sure that that was the right person, and clearly we made the right call with that. So yeah. So then we got William and Aubrey, and everything was perfect after that.
So then after we have like our cast, obviously, then we need to identify where are we going to shoot this thing?
Right.
Right. We have who, we have what, where. Like, how did you, I know when I started looking for locations, I started mainly in LA. We have these LA actors. Let's go to LA. Let's come
Bring
with
our
a set,
equipment over there,
seemed like such a good idea. And then we realized, then we have to have all of our people go over there.
But it was either
all of
bring
our
two
equipment.
LA actors to us or bring like 11 crew members to them.
And equipment.
Yeah. So it would have just been for location. So we ultimately decided to try to find somewhere here locally.
Right. And I know I was just doing like web searches, and then you knew about this set. It wasn't really a set, it's Kyle's garage.
Right. Well, yeah, Kyle has this it's like a workshop, and it's just massive garage, and it doesn't look like anything that we eventually made it out to be, but it had high ceilings. It had a big kind of dungeony in the corner there. This
So,
kind
like,
of
cold vibe.
This cold vibe, yeah. And so we went down there, and I remember we liked the aesthetic in this one specific corner, but we knew we were going to have to put some time and money into building it. We had to create this basement of this guy, and that took a whole lot of time and effort. And I think that it was so good that I think this is one of those things where we were talking about earlier where the COVID shutdown helped.
Yeah.
because we took our time and to find all of these little pieces along the way.
And I know some of the pieces even took a while. It was like, please, somebody help us.
Yeah,
like,
we were looking for the chalkboard.
The chalkboard. We eventually had to just take a whiteboard and paint it with chalkboard paint.
Right. There was a chalkboard in there that basically is, we wanted that because he's a scientist basically, or at least an engineer.
He needs to work it out.
Yeah. And so we wanted that chalkboard. We wanted the books. We wanted the electronic gadgets and things there. But then I remember just the conversations. We've released one about just the different parts and the different aspects of that garage and why they mean what they mean. And that was fun, at least for me.
I mean, even just listening to what we've already released of, does she interact with the fish on the
Right.
shelf? And I was like, no, of course not. She doesn't interact with this dumb fish. And we were like, wait, hold on. You're right. It wasn't in the script. We had created so much after the script, after we had met with the cast.
Right.
It brought so many more elements to life because we knew who we were casting. We knew how they would
Right.
interact with the scene, and that made it so much better.
Yeah, and I remember to go back to casting. One of the things that Aubrey did she's so reactive. Like everything was she did this one thing and I freaked out about it the first time. Of course I had to write it down, but it was just like she says a line and then she laughs, which is in the script. But immediately after she laughs, the idea is cut to Byron reacting to her laughing. She like starts touching her throat and her chest. Like, oh, like that's exactly, I knew what she was doing. I knew exactly why that was the case. And it was like, it's the first time she used her voice in that way. And it felt weird. And she wanted to, and it became a thing like this. She's got something here, not just her raw talent, but she's understanding the character in this deep way. So to go back to the set, of course she's going to be able to play with that and make it look good, and we kind of gave ourselves opportunities for that to develop.
I feel like I remember we were on set and that mannequin that sits behind her, right? And then there's that like the pieces of mannequin.
Yeah.
I remember Aubrey came up to me and she was like, this girl is who I'm fighting for, like. Yeah. Because, the set around her really helped her get into character and really defined who her character was to a certain extent. If we hadn't put those certain things in place, I don't think we would have gotten the exact same performance as we did.
Well, and I mean, if you know anything about acting, there's nothing more sterile than to sit down and not be able to react off of anything when you got to like completely own it. Obviously good actors can do that, but you put them in the environment and then put someone across from them that has, exactly like they're able to be that character and be in that story because they are, it's one less thing for them to have to get around, I guess. What was your favorite thing on set?
Like prop?
Yeah.
Like activity?
Well, whatever. Any of that. Something that you're just like, oh, that's cool. I like when I look at Beta, I'm like, oh, that's super cool.
I think about it more from like a logical perspective of like, well, that has to be there, that has to be there.
Right.
And I think about like what went into getting it onto set.
So it's like the sum of all parts.
Right. So I think the entirety of set, if I can say that, I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
But I think really it's just how they interacted with it. Me putting it on set, staging it, it's just an object that we paid for, right? Or rented. Them bringing it to life and interacting with it and like making it the movie. Right. I think that's what's cool.
Right.
It turns it from a prop to like art.
Something that wasn't cool was
the weather.
The weather on set. Yeah, something that we took for granted.
But do you remember it was hot? We were just worried about the mosquitoes.
Yes. Right. No, it was actually very comfortable minus the sound.
Right.
So it actually did rain on set, and we have that overlaid in the edit. So the atmosphere, they do, it does rain. We were able to, have a clean line of dialogue there without the rain due to good sound. by our sound technician, Thomas Smith.
Wow, Thomas, yay, Thomas.
But also just in general, like having, good, we had some luck as well. But then we kind of missed the coziness. I remember like watching the film without the rain, and it was totally different.
Yeah.
It needed to have that coziness.
But do you think it was because we had listened to it for so long, or do you think it's genuine coziness?
Well, I mean, I think rain in general is genuine coziness.
You want to stay inside, you want to bundle up.
Right. You have that feeling there. And, but it might have been, maybe it was, I have a positive experience with filming, and the rain was there. So maybe there's a psychological effect.
Oh, let's go into psychological.
Yeah. I mean, I can't deny that that's possible, but I honestly do just love rain. So, and I think a lot of people, that is something that is associated there. So, we've gotten good, I don't know, what do you call it? Good critiques out of the rain, and bad ones when we take it out, because it's just this hum.
Yeah.
It is very quiet without it. So
yeah. So we, talking about being on set and like our favorite things on set, it brings into like how these actors were with us on set. Obviously, COVID, we couldn't hang out really.
Right.
But we were still in this confined space. We still hung out with each other for like 48 hours, And it, they changed. You guys were on Zoom a lot doing your reading, and then they do their chemistry reading. They're like a little bit together. Mm-hmm. But then bringing them into the space, how did you see them really grow?
It was immediate. I mean, like it is true that in the Zoom Zoom meetings, they read their lines well. I mean, they were still good.
Right.
But there's, you get from here up, kind of like what I am here, you get from there up on, and you don't get the whole physical body. And that's important in acting, to be able to see all of that. And think
how they interact with each other,
right.
Like that touch and that closeness.
Right. And Aubrey said something about, I heard something that we were talking about. She really felt like they were listening to each other. And I think I don't think you can do that on Zoom. Like that's just, it's not, there's not that human interaction. And so when they were on set, I don't know, it was just something that happened, and it was immediate. Where it took them maybe a couple takes, and then they were right there listening to each other. And I remember there was one moment that William kind of worked with her. She was having trouble getting to
that emotional
place that she needed to go, and they just kind of like, I took her aside and I had my moment and talk with her. But then I think that the real magic was when William was.
Sorry to say, Kevin, but you did not work in that situation.
Right. Yeah, and I'm not Byron for her, and she was able to kind of through talking with him get to where she felt that it was comfortable. So I think that it was pretty immediate, and especially like I said, with all the body language that they were able to do and feed off each other. And especially with a short about a robot, all that makes the reality there. And so
it was really fun whenever we were doing just test shots, right? And just seeing Aubrey like practice staying still and keeping her eyes open, not moving at all. And she's like, okay, I got it. You know, it was fun to just see her create that character as we went.
Right.